Mr. Chairman, it is 6:07 p.m. and we are live. Greg, I think you need to unmute.
And thank you, Aaron. Let's get started here, guys. Sherry, would you like to call a roll?
Sure. Greg Rice,
Here.
Anthony Morata, Mark Hum,
Here.
Laura Starr, Ed LeBlanc,
Here.
Zaid Shams Sibasha, Juan Fun.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Thank you, and thank you, board members, for showing up tonight for our first meeting of 2022. Wow. Seems like a long time ago. Anyhow, Sherry, are there any additions, deletions, or postponements?
No, we have none.
Very good. Who had a chance to go over the meeting from January's meeting, which I wasn't able to attend? I'm sorry for that. And make any changes, recommendations, or motions to accept and file?
I move to accept minutes from December meeting.
We have a motion to accept. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second.
Mhm. Thank you.
Any discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Very good. Thank you very much. Cases. Okay. This is the time that Sherry will swear in anybody and everybody that plans on speaking or appearing before this board tonight, either in chambers or via Zoom. So Sherry, do your thing, please.
Paul, can you please turn on your camera and unmute? And Sherry, for the record, Zaid was in attendance, but I hadn't promoted him to panelist yet. So
Great, we got it. Okay. You plan to give testimony? Please stand and raise your right hand.
you guys don't have to.
Board members.
It's just for applicants and staff.
Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, if so, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Sherry, order seatbelts for those guys.
I know what it was. We
Well-
skipped the pledge.
You know
That's what
what?
it was. They're ready.
We sure did, man. These guys are ready to go. Would you like to go back around and pick up the pledge, guys? Who would like to do the first
I
pledge?
think we're good, Greg. I mean, we have one item
Okay.
on the agenda.
That's fine. We're almost there. Okay, let's move on down. Anybody have anything to disclose at this time? Board members, any?
I use City of Lakewood Electric.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. We have no unfinished business, so let's get going to new business. PCB board project number 21-01-0140027. This consists of consideration of a master site plan and conditional use request to develop an electrical substation and associated improvements that related to the parking, drainage, landscaping, and the newly passed P public zoning. Aaron, you want to take this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, this is a consideration of a major site plan and conditional use approval. This is related to the development of an electrical substation. And just as an aside, you saw this for a zoning change. You made a recommendation for approval to rezone and re-land use this to the public zoning district. And what's interesting is that outside of really the city, these substations typically go straight to building permit because of the provisions within the statute. We have our own local regulations because we own our own utility. So it gets additional public scrutiny within the city. As you can see, the owner is Edward Jones, Max Properties. The address is 706 and 710 South H. It's currently 2 single-family homes. The district and the future land use are both public. Here's the site plan. It's a substation. Substations are essentially parcels with equipment and a wall with landscaping surrounding them. That's essentially what it is. We don't have any zoning requirements for the location of equipment. The wall and the landscape plan are in compliance. The landscape plan includes native materials, hedging and trees surrounding the parcels to minimize impact on the adjacent residential. The surrounding parcels are single family, multifamily motel, single family vacant. The development, it's consistent with the comp plan, strategic plan, LDRs, site design qualitative standards, and conditional use criteria. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions outlined on pages 4 or 5 of the staff report. And just a note that with this, the approval of this would allow this substation to be approved, which will improve service to the area. Right now, the existing substation was probably constructed sometime in the 1960s. And then that will then allow that particular substation to become part of a CRA development project around closer to the corner of 6th Avenue South and Dixie Highway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how all that's linked.
That's one behind
Dunkin' Donuts.
Right. Okie dokie.
And that whole development proposal, we have not received it. It's, you know, when it would come in, it would come before you all for approval of that.
Thank you, Aaron. Do we have a presentation, or are we just going to go over the highlights, or how are we going to handle this tonight, Aaron?
Well, here are the conditions of approval. We just a unity title, standard lighting, standard public works and utility conditions. So I don't believe we have any public comment on this item. Sherry, we didn't have no public comment on the item. So this would go to board discussion, I believe.
Sherry, do we have any letters or calls in support or opposition of this project?
We have had nothing, and we have nothing at this time.
Oh, I
Okay.
would be remiss to say, Paul Nichols is from the Lake Worth Beach Electric Utility is here. And then Johan Machado from WGI, who is helping with the site plan development and is the agent on behalf of this project. They're both here if you have any questions or you'd like them to make a presentation.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here tonight. One of you's on the clock, the other one's here at the Goodwill of the City. Does any of the board members, I'm sure you had plenty of time to read the backup material.
I
Do you
noticed
have-
Laura had her hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Are we taking questions now?
It's board discussion.
Yes, yeah, Laura, pull your microphone down if you have. Thank you.
Does this project have utility overhead lines?
So Paul, I'll ask you. So the function of a substation, it takes the lines and then turns them into residential service lines. So the larger line. Yes, I mean, that's what it, can
And
you,
it's, you know, and the city has encouraged people for many years to put their lines underground. And I'm just wondering, can this have, is it possible that this would have underground lines? The city's been requiring, we're not requiring, but preferring everybody else to have underground lines. It certainly eliminates power outages when we have storms.
this is to serve existing residential with lines that are above ground. That would be a whole, undergrounding would be a whole separate, very expensive project. Paul, correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think this is just to change out the equipment to make it work better with what we have now.
There's already something there. There's already something there.
There's a substation farther north that's going to be decommissioned, and this is going to take over and have improved efficiency and reliability for existing customers.
So
Right.
the,
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
what we typically refer to as the feeder lines that are providing the power to the substation. Typically, those feeder lines would come into the substation overhead. However, the distribution lines that would be exiting the substation as part of this design, what we're going to try to do is incorporate as much of that leaving the substation underground, and then they would pop up on their respective feeder and go off in the direction they need to go in. A lot of times what that does is that'll clean up a lot of the overhead lines in the adjacent areas surrounding the substation. So you won't see, a massive amount of overhead power lines coming into a substation. You may see two coming in, which would be the redundant feeds providing power to that substation. One obviously would be a main feed and then an alternate feed in the event there was an issue with that. And then the distribution lines that go out to the neighborhoods, as Aaron had mentioned, would typically leave the substation underground, thus cleaning up a lot of the pole lines in the adjacent areas to that substation. So there will be, a combination around that substation of both overhead and underground work. Undergrounding of the distribution lines out in the rest of the city, that's a whole nother undertaking.
I'm just talking about at the location. Does the substation make noise? Is there any noise coming out of the substation?
I would say, I'm not a noise expert, but nothing that would be normally audible to the human ear.
That's it. No more.
Laura, there's been a substation there probably since the 40s or whatever, in that general area. This has just been repositioned or moved, I believe, when they were developing that corner for what is now the Dunkin' Donut location.
Yeah, I'm clear on that.
Right.
And
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, not much of a question, but in terms of the discussion, I think the biggest thing is how do you you don't want it to be an eyesore, and I'm sure they've done a good job putting in landscape around it, getting it greened up so that it has minimal impact, visual impact anyway on the neighbors. So other than that, I mean, that's a good question about some of them used to buzz back in the day, and I think that probably all taken care of at this point. But yeah, I don't think there's a.
And Paul and I were talking to that point is, Paul, they haven't settled on the final design, but I know electric utilities is looking. Weren't you guys looking at equipment that was shorter than, you had some options and you were looking at, they're always looking at reducing equipment and keeping things below the wall. It'll definitely be more based on my conversations with Paul, my understanding of it, it'll be a lot less visible than the one that's up the road. It'll be much more, and then the one that's up the road has no landscaping. It's just, you can see it from Dixie Highway, and
I
this.
think there'd be there'd be an improvement from 1960 to 2020.
You would hope. So,
Anybody else have a question, comment? Mark?
Motion.
And a hush fell over the room.
I have a motion to approve PDB project number 21-01400027. Consideration of a major site plan, conditional use request, develop electrical substation, associated improvements related to parking, drainage, and landscaping within the public zoning district.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Juan made the motion. Who made the second?
Ed made a second.
Thank you. Have any other discussion, comments? I'd like to call the vote then, if I could. All those in favor as motion? Yeah. As the motion was presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it again.
Unanimous.
Next.
Thank you, everyone.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman, we
Erin.
don't have any planning issues this evening, other than to remind you all of that it was looking like that third meeting in February for the joint session related to where Charter Coast Regional Planning Council will, as the consultant, will present of the downtown study, including the L&M Street. So that would be a joint workshop with the Historic Preservation Board.
And that will be February, what, 25th?
The third Wednesday in February, I don't have that date, but the ones, you guys got the RSVP list. So if you haven't finally RSVP to Sherry's email, make sure you do that. But that's based on what we've been receiving. It looks like that's the date.
What
So-
are they, what is it with the issue with L&M Street? Or did they rewrite?
17.
So,
Request for proposal or something?
so there's a study to take a fresh look at downtown, including those particular streets. And so the consultant who will be leading that effort will be the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council and a consultant from their team. And they will do a presentation on the scope of their study, and they're going to be asking for input from the two advisory boards in a joint session.
So put that on your calendars, gentlemen. If we would, and Sherry will send out emails to prompt us when the final
17.
decision comes. 17?
So Sherry and I are hoping to get that out and confirmed up this week.
Okay. Any other planning issues or things that you want to share with us? Hey, look at this.
You said something about a third meeting. You mean,
The
Third
third
week.
Wednesday.
oh, okay. That's-
Oh, and I also forgot, no, we had several conditional uses that we were waiting on resubmittals. They had to resubmit by the date the advertisement was due, which was Tuesday, and none of them resubmitted. So we actually have nothing for the agenda for February. So you won't have your regular meeting, but you will have the special meeting. So,
Okay.
yeah, nobody wanted to resubmit, so.
Well, we'll blame the holidays. There you go. Board members, any discussions or comments that you'd like to share with everybody? I guess not. Sherry, you fine?
I'm doing much better. Thank you.
Okay, good. Well, we'd like to see a little bit more overwork, but anyhow, we'll talk about that at next meeting. Okay, looks like we've about wrapped up our duties here tonight at 6:24. Want to thank you guys for showing up. We could have phoned this one in maybe, but yeah, I want to thank you guys for that, and thank the utility board for keeping the lights on. And with that being said, if there's no other discussion or comments or whatever, I'd like to call this what is this, January 19th meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, guys.